Gary McLean to be our special speaker on the topics of talent management during a digital era. He is a professor at the University of Minnesota. His specialty is in HRD, OD, education, policy, leadership, including talent management. He has been teaching, doing collaborative research, and publications with many professors around the world, including Thailand, for more than 30 years. I believe, if I remember correctly, about the year of 2010, you received the honorary Ph.D. degree from Her Royal Highness, the Crown Prince Sirinthorn of Thailand. And so please welcome Professor Dr. Gary McLean. And I will turn the stage to you and I will run the slides for you.
Appreciate that. The one thing I would add to your introduction is that I am now a professor here at NIDA in the HROD school. I have a signed contract, and so I am a full-time faculty member and advising students and teaching and doing research under the NIDA umbrella.
Oh, okay. Okay, so 1 minute. Let me ask my staff. ปีคะทำไมอาจารย์แชร์ทำไมสกรีนมันดูแตกต่างทำไมอาจารย์แชร์ไม่ได้เนี่ยโอเค 1 minute Gary, let me talk to my staff. I got some problem how to share. แล้วตอนนี้เราจะแชร์ยังไงทำไมหน้าจอมันต่างๆกันบ้างOkay.
Can we make it full screen and not see the faces?
Well, right now, can you see? It's a full screen now.
Well, but I'm still seeing you and your assistant, and if we could fill the whole screen, that would be very helpful for me.
ปีคะปีกับพี่งั้นช่วยทำแทนอาจารย์ได้ไหม
for 2 hours. I'm going to make you work. So, first question we're going to address is, what is talent management? It has many definitions, and I want to provide you with a foundation for discussing talent management. And then I'm going to ask, how is it affected by the digital era? So this is our agenda for our time together this evening. Okay, next slide.
Next slide.
Okay, so let's start with this question. What do you think talent management is? When you registered for this session, what did you think you were registering for? And I'd like to hear your answers.
You mean you want my student to answer your first question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Henry, you start first.
Okay, Professor, thank you. All right, and thank you, Professor Boon-Anan, for always asking me to start first.
You are my good students.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so talent management for me has to do with how to manage people skills, like what they bring to the table in a work setting. All right, how to manage those skills and talents for the best use of the company or the organization, and also of the individual who's got the talent, right? So I would want to see talent management from the lens of managing. The managing has to come from the manager, of course, right? The manager could, or it could be just the manager.
Let me interrupt you for 1 minute.
Okay.
When we try to define a phrase, the basic rule is you cannot use either of the words in your definition. And so you're using manage, and then you use the word talent, and we don't know what those words mean in this context. So try to define it without using the two words.
Okay, so I would say that it is about bringing the best out of individuals working in a company, and for the good of the company and for the good of the person who's got the.
That's good. We got 9 other people, so you did a good job there with not using the two words, and I appreciate that. Who else?
Thank you.
Okay.
Boon-Anan, don't pick them. Just let them come forward on their own.
Okay. Yes.
Who else would like to try?
Can I try, Professor?
Absolutely.
This is Woody from HROD here.
Hello, Woody.
Yeah, when I see the word Thailand, I just think about the high performing employee or staff, or like high potential people in the organization, and how the organization manage, how the organization can support them. Yeah.
Good catch.
Thank
okay,
you.
Someone else?
Thank you. Yeah.
I would like to try, Professor Boon-Anan.
Yes, please.
Yeah, my name is Nat. According to your saying, I would say that it is a way to channel an individual to be able to bring up the best. We have to find a way to channel to put up a mainframe or whatever that we can do to leverage individual to attain the best in them. That is how I would put the meaning
Appreciate that.
topic.
Are there no women in attendance tonight?
I think it's only me. And the other three ladies are my staff.
I'm just saying all we're hearing is men. Let's have a
Well,
woman try.
Gary, there are three more women, but they are my staff. They're not the students.
Students have answers. I value student answers. Is one of them brave enough to volunteer? No?
They can try.
Okay, is there anyone else who wants to try? Well, even with the three response, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Aaron. I'm from the US, California.
We'll forgive you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm currently a PhD student in NIDA. So it's my honor to join this seminar section learning. It's a very good topic that I have been like my experience through my careers and throughout the years. So I think the talent management it falls two parts, like when we look at it, and mostly it's by entrepreneur, and for HR, they want to examine how we develop career, right, for each individuals and inspire them or give them like more space or freedom to develop their skills. And also in the government policies, like in the inside of the administration, I think talent management means like what they are going to seek out the individuals or agencies to conduct a more useful information for their policy making. So that's what I taking from the talent management.
So is talent management a new phrase for career development?
I don't think so. It's been there for a while. It also evolutioned, like evolved from time to time, and I think the keys for how to develop a like skills or career inside of the organization, it's still being like developed, and the people are still trying to find out like how be successful, because I don't think in the digital era, I don't think a lot of traditional ways of developing people is 100% accurate. So people are still seeking for more theories, and I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yes, Aaron, you threw in the digital piece. I'm not sure how that fits into the definition. Does it?
I think I think it fits because a lot of things nowadays have a technology, and also like being online. For examples, like a lot of learnings, like online learnings, and also governments are willing to put a lot informations online, so people can do like for example, like in the California, right? Like before, you have to go to agencies to print out, to fill out your applications, and also to answer the questions like the vote. So now you can do online. You can learn from a lot of things from the human resources departments. I think that's what changes the ways of people thinking.
Aaron, are you in Thailand or are you zooming in from California?
I'm currently in UAE.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a project here, so I cannot leave soon. I would like to, yeah, be in Thailand as soon as possible. Yes.
We'll talk some more about that later in the presentation. Is there anyone else who has something they'd like to add?
Okay, yes, Professor. I want to add that talent management can also be strategic, like it has to be planned, and it has to involve some processes and practices such as retaining the talent or the person, the individual and the company, or how to retain the talent is also part of the talent management, and how to attract the individual also is also part of the
talent. You're using the word talent. What does that mean? You can't use talent to define talent.
Okay, yes, okay. So how to attract, I said that it has to do with processes which can be strategic, right? Which can be planned. And it has to do with how to attract the person that has got the skills for the job or the talent for the job, and also how to retain the person that has the skill or the talent. So it involves a lot of these processes. That's what I want to add.
Yeah, you're still using the word talent there. You can't use the same word in the definition. Used
okay,
it
I did not use it. I said that it has to do with how to attract the person that has the skills, all right? And
you
also
talent.
Okay.
You just have to be careful because as we look at this phrase, it gets very, very tricky, both in terms of the word talent. What does talent mean? And in terms of the word management, what does it mean to manage? Whatever it is we're talking about when we talk about talent. Anyone else, or are we okay? Okay, let's go on to the next slide then.
Okay, next slide.
I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Jerry Maguire. Jerry Maguire is a very funny movie, but it highlights the efforts of Jerry Maguire, who is a talent agent for a number of sports heroes, I guess. When we think about talent management, do we think about being a talent agent, someone who brings in the best of the best and negotiate their role within the organization? That's typically what people think of when they think of the word talent. Next one.
Okay, next slide.
You know this person? Clearly a very, very talented basketball player. Next one.
Physically talented in the first place.
Yes, next slide.
Well, you're making an assumption there that the only reason he's talented is because of his size. There may be much more to that. A lot of tall people can't play basketball. It has to be developed. Suni Lee is a world-class gymnast. She comes from my hometown in Minnesota. practice in. Next.
Yes, slide, next slide.
Can they not hear me, Boon-Anan?
Yes, I can hear you. I just tell my staff.
Can your staff not hear me?
Yes, she can hear you, but maybe she's not hear you well.
Yeah, because you shouldn't have to repeat. When I say next, we should be okay to move on. Well, here's another type of talent. Here we have a Hollywood or a media-based talent. This is from the US. Next. Next, okay. Here's a Thai star. Obviously another talented individual. Are these the kinds of people we are talking about when we talk about talent management? What's your answer?
Could you repeat the question again, Professor?
Is this the type of person we're talking about when we talk about talent in talent management? Are we talking about movie stars, athletic stars? Is that what we mean by talent?
I do think it relates to certain aspect when we talk about individual talent.
So when I put out talent management as the title of our session, you thought you were going to learn how to manage movie stars and athletes.
Not likely. I think it should be something more to cover.
Like what?
I would say it sounds more relating to how we organize a bigger entity, say organizations, or maybe to look over something from a larger picture.
Okay. Someone else?
Hello, Professor. Me, Aaron. Again, Aaron. So I think when I come to this section and the learning, I think from the past experience, the classes also offers talent management, and I think what we come to today is about learning how to inspire each individuals and the retention for people to to get progressing in their skills, and also to define inspire people to come forward, especially in Asia, right? I have been working in China for 8 years. A lot of people are very talented and smart, and they have skills, but they are often like a Japanese, they don't tend to come forward, right, to express themselves and to show their talents. So they're shy. I mean, so how do we in organizations, how do we inspire them to come forward to contribute to the organization, or the topics we're talking about, and all the sessions we're conducting all the talents together, and as a think tank, for example, how do we inspire them to do more researches and put together as also be good for the employees, right? I'm sorry.
So
Professor,
there are lots more actors and lots more athletes who do not rise to the level of the examples I shared with you. Are they talent?
I'm sure they are.
Keep going.
I just the ways how I think everybody has their uniqueness and their skill to contribute. It's just the ways how do we guide them, right? Like how do we? That's what we talk about the talent management. How do we put them into use to people that to understand? Yeah.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that everybody has some talent that needs to be developed, not just those who are at the very top. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like the ones on the top is also, being good at, or they're walking the path that being management correctly, right? Like, so I'm not saying like they're genius. I'm saying that, some like Kobe Bryant, when he was like a basketball player, he worked really hard, right? Like, so he developed his skills by the own. It's a good ways of managing his own uniqueness, and he sees his career through the basketball. I mean, like if he tends to to do something else like salesman, I don't think he would be successful. That's what I take. I'm sorry, Professor, if that's the right answer.
We don't know that. He very well could develop into a good salesperson. We don't know.
Yes.
Okay, so there are lots of actors, probably thousands and thousands of actors, and certainly a lot of professional athletes whose names we don't even know. So they aren't the top of the top, but they're still talented, and they still have a role to play. And that's what we're going to look at as we look at talent management within organizations. So can we go to the next slide, please? All right, so this is to give you an example of some of the diverse ways in which talent management is defined. So when we look at these, you will see that there is no single way of defining talent management. So while widely used, and it is widely used today, the meaning of talent management is not clear. Are we talking about global recruiting for the very best? So this first one would be like those key actors, these key athletes who reached the top. That's possible. Or are we talking about developing executives and leaders to the best of their abilities? Or, and someone mentioned this in their answer, are we talking about the high potentials, the hypos, the high potentials, and developing the high potentials within our organization? And the question then becomes, if we are talking about developing the hypos, what does that mean for the rest of the employees in your organization? Do they get left behind? Do they feel demotivated because they're not receiving the attention that the hypos are receiving? Is that a possibility? A couple of you talked about retention programs. So when we talk about talent management, are we talking about retention? And if we are, who are we trying to retain? Do we want to retain all of our employees? Or do we want to retain the best of the employees? So when I hear people talk about retention metrics, I wonder sometimes about whether they really understand what they mean by retention. Because sometimes we have employees we don't want to retain. We want to get rid of them because they are disruptive or because they are not productive in the workplace. But retention programs are sometimes seen as talent management. And then we've got the possibility that this term, talent management, is simply an effort to replace HR, human resources, or human resource management, or human resource development, because HR has developed a reputation over time of not being strategically oriented or aligned within the organization. I think you may find as we move forward that that last possibility is indeed a significant possibility. Do you have any questions about any of these possibilities? Haven't come down hard yet on a definition, but these are possible ways of looking at talent management. Okay, if not, let's go to the next slide. I know that this is a metaphor that is very popular, particularly in Asia, because of the elephants here. This is a story that Rudyard Kipling wrote, and he talked about 6 blind men encountering an elephant, and they wanted to understand what an elephant was. And so they each took a different part of the elephant and used it to describe what an elephant is. So the man at the back grabbed the tail. And what did he say an elephant was like? Oh, I know you know this story. No, don't go ahead. Go back. There we are. What does a tail describe the elephant as? Oh, come on. Woody, I know you know.
Sorry, Professor. Yeah, you mean what kind of animal, right?
So the person at the back is holding the elephant's tail. What does he say an elephant is like?
Oh, yeah, he probably thinks about cow or buffalo or something.
No. All he feels is the tail. What does he think it's like? He's just holding the tail.
Yeah, he can touch just only the tail, but it's difficult for him to imagine the whole pictures of the elephant, right?
What does the tail feel like?
It's kind of like hair there.
It feels like a rope.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the man at the back says an elephant is just like a rope. And then as we come forward, we see a man holding the side of the elephant. And what does he think an elephant is like? I'm surprised you don't know this story. He thinks the elephant is a wall. The side feels like a wall. And then we've got the man who's holding the elephant's leg. And what does he think it's like? Give me a guess. Tree trunk. Good. Yeah. And then we have the one holding the elephant's ear. What does he think an elephant is? What does an elephant do with its ear? It's a fan. And then we come further forward, And there's the man holding the tusk. What does he think the tusk is? Got a sharp point.
Sharp and
What do you
pointy.
think?
Yeah.
Say it. What is it?
Sharp and pointy. That's the story, right?
So if he
If I
thinks it's a
remember
sharp
correctly.
point, what does he think it is?
Maybe it's like a sword. Like it's
Yeah,
it's
good.
very
It's a weapon. And then the first person, it has the trunk. And what does he think the elephant is? Think about how an elephant uses its trunk. He thinks it's like a hose. Which of these 6 men is right?
Well, none of them is right, but these are blind men. We are not blind, Professor, right?
Yeah. Well, speak for yourself. I actually am blind. So,
we are obviously not blind, but I think if I want to compare this to your last take on what talent management could be, when you said that it could be any of those definitions, but it's leaning towards the last one, which is trying to change it from talent management to, trying to change the human resource development or human resource to talent management, which you also said it is maybe leaning towards political definition, all right? So if you want to compare this to, I want to look at it from a holistic point of view, right? Someone who is not blind and who is an outsider seeing the whole picture can give a fair, I think you can give a fair understanding or definition of what an elephant looks like. Maybe because you are the professor or you have been in the field, you know a lot about it. But for us who are just stepping into the field and trying to learn, we might be considered as blind because we haven't seen the full picture, right? So, but the point I'm trying to make is these guys are blind, obviously, and blind here, if I want to see it from metaphorical point of view, I would consider them as people who are not talented, right? Talented person have the capacity to, use his or her skills or her to give a fair understanding of a situation, right? So yeah.
let me stop you for a minute. If
Okay.
we wanted to give these blind men a better perspective of what an elephant is, what would we have to do?
Okay, so we have to probably describe the whole picture of what it is to them.
You can do that. You can do it better than that. What do we want to do to the person holding the tail?
Okay, you're going to ask him to also touch the leg and also touch the hose or the wall part of the, yeah.
Okay, so what we're saying here, and you made a very good point about relating this back to the previous slide. Each of these men is actually right in their limited perspective, but they're all wrong in terms of the holistic perspective. So if we want to give them a holistic view of what an elephant is, we would need to have them move around the elephant, feel all parts of the elephant, Blind people can be very effective, but they have to be helped. They have to be developed. And so when we talk about talent management, we don't want to just look at an isolated part of the definition, but we want to look at the holistic part of the definition. And that's what this metaphor says to us. We need to develop a broad, holistic perspective of what we're talking about when we talk about talent management. Okay, next slide. Woody will know that this is one of my favorite slides. This is actually a picture of a beach in China. And they've got different umbrellas. Some are yellow, some are red. Some people are in the water. Other people are under the umbrella. This, for me, is a metaphor of the challenge we face within talent management of selecting the people who have the talents to be developed for the organization. Think about how difficult this task is. How do you go into this mass of people and find those people who are going to be effective in working for your organization? That's the challenge we face in talent management. And that's what I'm going to talk about as we move forward tonight. Next slide. Okay, so in HR, we have, sadly, a tradition of embracing fads. Everyone know what a fad is? Tell me what a fad is.
Fad, maybe trends, popular events, trends, yeah.
Okay, so they come and they go.
Yeah.
So within HR, we have a lot of things that we embrace that we have no evidence for their effectiveness within the organization. When I was where you are, we were talking a lot about MBOs, management by objectives. And we learned that they were not only ineffective, but they actually damaged organizations. And all of a sudden, here come along key performance indicators, KPIs. They just replaced MBOs. KPIs are just as ineffective as MBOs. In fact, maybe not as effective. They destroy the productivity of our organization. They destroy the concept of continuous improvement. And yet we embrace it. We embrace it to the extent that the government of Thailand mandates its use. Why? There's no evidence for its effectiveness and lots of evidence for its ineffectiveness. And yet everywhere I go in Thailand, I hear about KPIs. Perfect example of how we have embraced a fad without evidence. There are so many others. There's research now in Thailand on the happy workplace. Well, what is a happy workplace? And why do we want a happy workplace? And it seems like it has simply replaced what we used to talk about with satisfaction and dissatisfaction among employees. We're back to competencies. Competencies were with us in the 50s and in the 60s and in the 70s and in the 80s. They came and they went and they came and they went. And now we're back to talking about competencies again. Where's the evidence that competencies are useful in helping us to develop individuals? We talk about ROI, return on investment, even though we know that we cannot prove that HR is a contributor in the workplace to the ROI. We've tried for years. Everyone thinks our HR is useful, in fact, even essential, but we don't have the evidence that that's true from an ROI perspective. Employee engagement is replacing employee commitment. Maybe they're both useful. Maybe we need to have both. Where is the evidence? Assessment assessment centers are replacing, and perhaps usefully, the traditional ways in which we measure the effectiveness of employees, particularly for promotion. We've got some evidence here. Assessment centers are among the most effective ways of selecting high-ranking individuals. However, even though it's among the best, its correlation runs between 0.4 and 0.5. And if you think about a correlation, we have to square it. That means at best, we have a 25% chance of choosing the right employee. Think about the ways we currently select employees. Interview is the most common, and interviews are effective about 0.1 to 0.2, which means they're just barely above chance. And then here in Thailand, I hear about selection of employees on the basis of birth date, or on the basis of the shape of their face, or on their telephone number, or their license plate number. Come on. How can we possibly, as professionals, embrace those kinds of approaches when they are so incredibly ineffective? And yet we do. And we do perhaps because there are no other options. The assessment center is very expensive. Maybe we can't afford to do that. Maybe it's better to make a mistake than it is to spend that kind of money. Someone doesn't like what I'm saying because they took my slides away. Where did my slides go?
It's coming back.
Oh, good.
It's back.
It's back. And now I want the next slide. Do you have any idea how we play the alphabet game in HR? We have so many acronyms. Here are just a few of them. We talk about emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence. Today, we even talk about spiritual intelligence. We talk about 360-degree feedback, balanced scorecard, learning organization, organizational learning. We talk about action learning. We talk about appreciative inquiry, or just to keep things confusing, we also use the same letters for artificial intelligence. Next screen. It goes further. Where's my next screen? LSIE, probably not a real popular one, but if you're into groups and if you're into strategic planning, LSIE you would understand because it talks about the large-scale intervention events, ways in which we include the entire organization in our planning processes. VL, virtual learning. KM, knowledge management. OJT and SOJT, on-the-job training and structured on-the-job training. We talk about CPT, competency-based training, or CBT, computer-based training. We talk about CD, career development, VR, virtual reality, and on and on and on the list goes. We keep trying to find the magic bean. If you know the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, Jack came home one day having sold his cow for a few magic beans. And with these magic beans, he planted them. A vine grew. He was able to climb up into the skies. I don't know where he was, into some castle. And he captured the goose that laid the golden egg. And that was how he became wealthy. And in HR, we keep trying to find the magic bean so we can find the goose that will lay the golden egg for us and for our organization. And folks, just like Jack and the Beanstalk is a fairy tale, so is it a fairy tale that there is one approach that we can use that's going to make our organization successful. Next slide. So we have lots of emerging trends in HR. And are they effective? So things like spirituality in the workplace. We have one of the faculty members in NIDA who really specializes in that area. We have digital applications that we're going to spend a lot of time on here later. Artificial intelligence. It's the real hot topic today. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that. Diversity and inclusion. I'm not sure that that's as important here as it is in the US, although there are ways that we need to think about diversity and inclusion here in Thailand, such as through those people who are differently abled, what we used to call disabled, but they're differently abled. So I am actually legally blind and I have a hearing deficiency, but I'm still an active, productive employee. There are 1.6 billion people in the world who are differently abled, who are not in the workplace, who need to be in the workplace, both for themselves, for their families, but also for the organizations. That's an emerging trend that we need to pay attention to as we think about our roles in developing talent management. Another focus is okay, countering what is that word? Does it mean anything? Countering
Ableness.
I got it. What is it?
Ableness. Countering ableness.
I don't know what that means. I think I've got a typographical error there, so let's skip that one. And then the next one is controlling bullying and hostile workplaces, countering. I know what it's countering ableness. It's a relatively new word. Ableness means discrimination based on one's physical abilities.
Oh.
So ableness says if you aren't able the way I'm able, then we don't want you in the workplace. So it's a form of discrimination, ableness. And then countering bullying and a hostile workplace. Lots of attention being placed on that today because our workplaces are becoming hostile and we need to pay attention to that. And then there's the Me Too movement, a way in which people have been able to come forward and speak their truth about sexual harassment. And that is true for both men and women. So that's another trend that we see in the talent management arena. You have questions about any of those?
Yes, Professor. We are talking about. I want to go back to the last two slides, all right, where you talked about the ineffectiveness of the selection processes in the HR, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned interview, and you mentioned a lot of other assessment tools that we use, and you said that they are not as effective as we believe it is, but we still use them, right? And do you have any reason to give us why you think it is not effective? Because we use some of those, and they are still, most companies, organizations are still using them, and overall they are still making some kind of headway, realizing their objectives and their goals and profit making, right? So why would you say they are not effective? Can you give us a specific example?
Because I'm drawing on the research. The research tells us that interviews are only 0.1 to 0.2 better than chance. And assessment centers, which research shows us is the most effective, but not terribly effective, is 0.4 to 0.5 better than chance.
Wow.
So I'm drawing on research to answer that question. And that means that I don't have anything to tell you that you should use because we don't have anything that's more effective.
Wow. So
and
the follow-up question should... Yes, please go on.
Go ahead.
All right. So the follow-up question should be, what is HR doing to, like you said, we are chasing we are trying to find the magic bean, right? Like, what are we doing to actually find out the one that works best for HR?
Well, we know the that works best is the assessment center. It's 0.4 to 0.5. But assessment centers are very expensive.
Expensive, yeah. Wow.
And when you think about, you started out with interviews. When you talk about interviews, the worst interviews are group interviews. And that's something that's actually growing within our field. But when you think about it, when you do a group interview, no one has enough time to really pursue a topic in sufficient detail. And you're taking up the time of a lot of people to conduct the interview.
Wow.
So you're asking me what's better.
Yes.
And the problem we have with that question is that it applies to almost everything I have on these screens. And that is, we keep looking for the magic bean when there is no such thing as a magic bean. So what can we do that's better? If you can't afford an assessment center, I shake my head. I don't know. I wish I did. If I could figure out the answer to that question, you and I could go into business and make millions and millions of dollars. Everyone wants to know the answer to that question because we don't have it.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I wish I had the answer for you.
Sorry for asking a lot of questions, Professor. Can we maybe develop some kind of research question towards this area to, find the best tool that works? Is it possible that there are some research going on in HR field right now, looking at this problem? Because obviously it is a problem, right? It's a big gap.
So here's the problem. People keep trying to answer what we've already answered. So it's not efficient to go back and try to determine if interviews are effective. We already know the answer. Are assessment centers effective? We already know the answer. If you're looking for a research question, what you would need to do is to come up with an idea of a better way to do it, and then do the research to determine how effective that is. However, as a doctoral student, that would be a longitudinal study. You'd have to hire people, follow them up, and see if they're successful. I don't think you want to take another 10 years to do your dissertation, do you?
No, of course not.
So maybe you can talk Boon-Anan into working on that research study. She's got 10 years left.
Okay, good advice. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on. I do want to make sure I get to the digital part here. Next slide, please. So how do we know whether any of them work? And this is really the question that we were just discussing. And that is that we are learning that some do work situationally. Maybe in some situations, you will find some aspects of those three slides that work, but not all. And in fact, most don't work. And so then we have to ask the question, if there are some components of talent management that work and some that do not, then we are still having to struggle to define talent management and the components that do work. Next slide. So, are these all components of talent management? Each of those items, are they all part of TM? And will TM also become a fad, or is it here to stay? Why do we embrace fads so easily within our field, even when there is no evidence that they work? So let's really focus on that last one if we can. Why do we embrace fads without evidence that they work? Surely someone wants to answer that.
Okay, so just like you explained in the last slide, some of those tools work situationally, right? So maybe some organizations might see that, hey, this is working for this. This is working for us. And maybe some other organization by this side we see, okay, this particular tool is working for that organization. Let's try it. All right. And they start using it and probably never get a good result, right? Or they get lucky to get good results too. So I think why people embrace fads is a kind of a trial and error stuff, right? And fads is always very, trending and popular, and after some times it fades away. All right, and this goes on. Maybe this goes to tell us that before we can use any of those instruments or tools, we have to be objective. All right, we have to base our usage of those tools on studied data, on research, right? So people mostly use fads based on trial and error to see if it's going to work or not. And most times it doesn't work, or maybe they don't have any proof to show that it works. All right. So, but sometimes fads do work for some time too. All right. Maybe like I remember how the cryptocurrency started trending and making a lot of waves, and after some time it looks like it's dying away. And I think those waves were as a result of fads. A lot of companies, organizations started to trade on cryptos and all of that. And so I think fads is more or less a trial and error situation for most people, organizations.
Okay, so as PhD students, what should you be doing to determine whether or not your organization should be using these or not?
Okay, so as a PhD student, I should be, focusing more, maybe asking a lot of questions, researchable questions based on the topic.
Okay.
And,
okay. So
making a research on it. Yeah.
Gary, your microphone is off.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
We cannot hear you, Gary. I can hear Henry.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I don't know what happened there. My personal perspective is that there is no such thing as objective. No matter what approach we use, no matter how we look at any of these fads, we're always going to bring our own biases into play. No matter what kind of research we do, there's going to be a reflection of our own world views. So we can do the best we can with research, and I think that's a useful response. But even with research, we're still going to be left with subjective responses to any of the questions about whether they work or not.
Mm.
Objectivity is not something we can embrace as researchers because it doesn't exist.
Wow,
Does that
that's a big statement you just made now, Professor. Can you explain more on that? Because in research we are taught to be as objective as possible, although yeah.
That's different.
Okay.
As objective as possible says that we cannot be objective. Right?
Yeah.
So we try to be objective, we try to bracket our biases, and then we try to approach our research with as little subjectivity as possible, knowing that we're going to fail.
Oh, okay.
Think about your research. If you're trying to create an instrument, what questions you ask, how you word them, what people you test them with, are all choices that you make. They're not an external reality. And that's one of our struggles with answering these questions, is that they're always going to be subjective, they're always going to be contextual, situational, and therefore we don't have absolute answers for any of this, nor will we ever have that.
That's in social sciences, right? But in pure sciences, right?
Social sciences only. Give me a couple rocks and we can do it.
Okay.
But people aren't rocks. Anyone else? I'm hearing a lot from Henry. Anyone else? Okay, let's go to the next slide then. So, how do we define talent management? This is actually from an article, and they defined talent management in 3 different ways, similar to what we've been talking about. TM is not essentially different from HRD and HRM. That's like that last bullet I had on a few slides earlier. Talent management focuses on that portion of the workforce known as talented. This is an example of those where they're the best, the top, the most productive, the most effective employees. Different from 1. And then number 3, talent management involves organizationally focused competence development. So that means we develop all of our employees to the level of competence that we can, so they can contribute the most to the organization. Again, 3 different approaches to how we see talent management. Next. Next. I thought just for fun, I would run talent management through artificial intelligence. So this is what I got when I ran it through ChatGPT. And by the way, the American Psychological Association has now said it's okay to use artificial intelligence so long as you reference it. So I'm referencing it here. Talent management is the process of attracting, developing, and retaining the best people for your organization. I think this is a limited definition. I don't think it embraces the full scope of what we're talking about with talent management. But I think this graphic that we have below does a much better job by looking at a broader perspective of how people might be developed for the organization. Next slide. If you've been in HR, you probably know the HR wheel. This was developed by Patricia McLean back in 1986, 89. It's still a very widely used model, and it outlines all of the components. On this screen, we see HRD, and then on the next screen, next, we see HRM. And I understand that Dr. Boon-Anan is going to give you a copy of these slides. So you'll be able to come back and look at these two slides in more detail. But this breaks out the two slides pretty extensively, the components of what we have traditionally seen as human resource. And when we look at the definitions officially of talent management, what you're going to see is that all of these components show up as the components of talent management, and there is almost nothing I can think of that should be included that we get from our definition of talent management. So the conclusion that talent management is widely used to replace human resource as a synonym is probably a good solution. Next slide. So there is nothing in any part of the wheel that does not contribute to talent management. So maybe talent management is just a replacement for HR. It just sounds sexier. It sounds more acceptable. Next. I'm going to skip this because we're getting short in time. So again, you'll have this. Let's go ahead. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, now we get to the core of the digital era. So how do we currently use forms of digitalization or forms of technology to support talent management currently? And I want to get just one idea from each of you. So there are 10 of you here. We should get 10 examples, one person at a time, one idea. Boon-Anan, can you see them and call them out one at a time?
Yes. Okay.
All right, let's one at a time.
Okay, let's start with Henry.
Okay. All right. Okay, I will give, I have maybe two, but I will give one, just like Professor said. I think we can use technology or digitalization for maybe online job portals and platform. Okay, digital platform.
Henry, I
Yes.
missed. You said we can use it for
online job portals and platform.
Job postings?
Job portals and platforms.
I'm missing the word job quotas?
Yes, job portals, yes.
What does that mean?
Portals, portal.
For what purpose?
Like when you, it's a digital platform that allow organizations to post their jobs opening and reach to maybe wider audience online.
Okay, so we can use portals
Yeah.
for the purpose of selection to reach
Yes.
a broader audience of possible employees. Have I got that right?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, thank you. Next. No, not next slide. Go back. Okay, next participant. Eric? Can you give me an example?
Okay, turn on your microphone.
Was it off again?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I would like to next, Professor, if you allow me.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Nat.
With your permission. All right. Would you help, since I'm not in the HR category, I would like to know, how do you mean by, what sort of support do you need in the talent management? Can you at least give me some ideas so that I can channel the digitalization into that practice?
That's what I'm trying to get now, is examples. So if you aren't in the field, listen to your other 9 participants and they'll give you examples. So the first one we got was using the computer to post job notices so that we can recruit from a broad range of potential employees.
One of the objective if to recruit or to categorize different groups of talents, then I think putting up a sort of network through the technology that can somehow work. For example, if you can utilize AI technology through the screening process, as I have attended a seminar about how they utilize AI in the screening process in the insurance, no, not the insurance, in the hospital insurance screening process, then
Okay, so
somehow
that
can somehow help.
That's the second one. Okay, we got it. That's the second one. Good one.
Right.
So we've got it now for recruitment and we've got it for selection. We've got AI for selection. We've got the use of computer platforms and portals and networks for recruitment. So that's 2. Let's get another one. Thank you, Eric. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Chachawan.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you, Ajahn Nat Boon-Anan, just call me. My full name is Chachawan. Okay, let me think about what I think is kind of like how about, because we just passed the COVID, right? Maybe the organizations can set some kind of working culture, like the staff can work, hybrid, platform, hybrid workplace like that. They can work, at the on-site, and at the same time they can work, remotely at home, right?
Okay,
in a week like that, yeah.
Okay, just give me one at a time here. We can use the computer to support hybrid or remote working.
Yes, Professor.
All right, that's 3.
Thank
Next.
you.
Thank you.
Heji from California.
Hello, Professor.
Yes. Go ahead.
So I would like to give examples for such as I encountered before in the organization. I'm trying to help the organization to implementing something. How about the performance, right? Like the performance feedback, as we have a database to allow people to input their skills developments, and also we based on their developments, based on their skills, then we suggest them to take some courses, and also they can feedback, right, to the systems. Then we have for 360 degrees about like how each employees they're needing helps, or
I asked you for one. I've heard 4 from you so far, all of which are good and fine. Okay, so we can use databases to accumulate the skill sets available within the organization. We can use databases to do needs assessments so that we can determine what training is needed. We can, well, I think I'll just stop at those 2, see if someone else, you're making it really hard for those that follow you. So keep it to 1.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. We got at least 2 good ones. Next.
Juanita. Juanita, are you with us? Kishon, are you with us?
Yes, sir, Ajahn.
Yes.
I'm observed, and then I would like to see all of our class going on, and then I'm very appreciate Professor Gary, very good. And then now I just monitoring only, and then next time I will have more idea, but now I'm just learning, sir. Thank you very much.
It's always acceptable to pass. So you have nothing to apologize for.
Okay. So
Woody,
the last one, Vitayapon, would you like to try?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Sorry. What is the question again, please?
The question is
how do we use technology to support talent management?
I think technology we use technology to select people that have best fit for the talent that the people that talent that we select in the organization. I think.
How do we do that?
We categorize the people into the into the category by using technology.
So we use technology to create databases?
Yes, I think.
Okay. Did Woody escape us, or did I hear from him already?
Pardon?
Is Woody there?
Oh yeah, it's my name Chachuan. Ajahn Boon-Anan mentioned it's about remote workplace, yeah, and hybrid already, yeah.
Very good, very good. Okay, so let me suggest some of the things that I think about when I think about using technology for TM. Some of these you came up with. Some of them will be new. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to do a lot of detail, but maybe this will be enough to spark your curiosity as you think about how you might use technology for talent management. So can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so the first one that I think about is social media and networking systems for recruitment. We talked about using the computer as a portal for job recruitment, sharing widely job positions. What I see happening by organizations now is the use of social media extensively, using things like TikTok, using things like Facebook, LinkedIn, all of these other networks and software that can be used to make it known widely jobs that are available. I'm on LinkedIn, and a day does not go by that I don't get an email from LinkedIn saying an adjunct faculty position is available that meets your skill set. Consider applying. Well, people say that there are no longer vacancies in higher education for faculty. I have had as many as 20 a day come to me as vacancies. So these organizations are using social media to try to recruit, and to recruit me specifically because I'm on LinkedIn. Another way in which technology is very widely used to make it easier for the HR people is through matching resume criteria with the resumes. So I have friends in HR, and they say that when they post a vacancy, they often get as many as 200 to 300 applications. They just don't have time to go through each of those resumes. On top of which, because we are all subjective, as we talked about earlier, it's difficult for them to make a good decision about whose resume best matches the vacancy that's available. And so we can use AI, as was mentioned, or we can simply run some easy metric comparisons between the criteria and the resume to identify 2 to 3 of the resumes that best match what we have identified as our criteria. Very much time saving, and it can actually improve the quality of our selection. I was also working with, I guess I can tell you, Abbott, a major company in the US that manufactures pharmaceuticals. And in this particular division, they were having very serious problems with managers who were portraying bullying behavior. And the CEO of the division wanted to get rid of that behavior. And so he wanted a system where he could know immediately when such behaviors were occurring. So I did some research and I identified some technology that would allow employees to immediately provide feedback to the CEO when a manager was behaving in that way. Well, we used the system for a while. Unfortunately, what happened was that we found out that those managers who were bullying were also the managers of the sections that were most productive. When I confronted the CEO about that, it became evident that he valued productivity over having a safe workplace. And so the project was dropped. And he continued to allow the bullying managers to stay in their positions. So here was a technology that was very effective, but it didn't give the CEO the answers he wanted. And so he dropped the project. Another possibility is through the use of chat box systems, and there are many now that are coming out that go beyond the chat GPT capabilities. Microsoft now has their own AI system. And these are systems that can be developed to do many, many things that we have traditionally done in our talent management functions. For example, AI can create training materials. AI can actually write up HR reports. AI can help you to make decisions that in the past would have taken hours to make. And they can be made now in the matter of actually just seconds. So we've heard a lot of talk about AI. We've heard a lot of talk about chat box. And what we are finding is that they can become extremely effective and efficient for use within talent management. And I've even said that the American Psychological Association has approved the use of AI in writing and in research, so long as you give the particular chat box credit when you write it in your manuscript or your report. Anything on this screen you'd like to say more about? I think when I asked for an open response, someone mentioned 360. Yes?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and this feedback system I talked about gives you immediate 360 feedback, not where you have to go at the end of the year and you pick some peers and you pick some subordinates and you pick some customers, but it gives immediate 360 feedback, both to the individual employee as well as to the supervisor. So it's not a case of having to wait anxiously at the end of the year to get the report, but you get that report immediately when you can change the behavior. The problem with all of our previous assessment tools, like annual performance reviews, like 360-degree feedback, is that you get the feedback long after the behavior is over. With this immediate feedback system, you get it immediately, and you can change your behavior immediately. Your supervisor can provide coaching immediately and not wait for 6 months and say to you, oh, you remember back in May when you did X? And you're saying, no, I don't remember that. Well, this immediate system helps us overcome that delayed feedback and helps us to improve performance immediately. Okay, next screen. VRT. You know, this has been sort of science fiction, and then it came along to support video games, but now it's moving into the corporation with virtual reality training. This is especially useful if you're working in an organization or with a process that's dangerous, where if you make a mistake, you can blow up everything. So with VRT, this is where you put on the goggles and you can see a different reality from the reality in which you are actually in. And we can simulate situations. For example, I've done some work with a colleague at Medtronic, and Medtronic does a lot of work with heart-related implants to improve heart health. Well, that's really dangerous. If the surgeon makes a mistake, it could be the death of the patient. And they're using VRT now, a simulation where the surgeon actually performs the surgery in a virtual reality environment. So if they make a mistake, now they might get a blasting noise from their VRT, but they aren't endangering any patients. So VRT is being used now widely in simulated training in the workplace. AI, of course, artificial intelligence, and ML, machine learning, can also customize and individualize learning. You know, one of the problems with our old model of training and development is that we assumed, just like I'm doing here with you, that you're all at the same point, you all have the same background, you all have the same interests, and we know that's not true. And so with AI and ML, we can customize the training so that each of you receives exactly the information that you want and that you need. A gamification. Did I misspell that? I did. That first word is supposed to be gamification. Can help you attract and recruit candidates, can help you to onboard and orient new hires, can help you to train and develop skills, can help you measure and reward performance, can help you foster collaboration and innovation, all in an approach that particularly Gen Z loves, the video game. So all of these things can be done today. And you look at this list, this is almost every aspect of talent management. And we can do it through gamification. Next screen. Well, something's wrong here. I don't know what I intended there, sorry. When we have computer-based systems, they can help us through databases, as we talked earlier, in selecting people for specific projects. I worked with a company that had a global perspective. They were all over the globe, and they had to find employees with the given skills, but also with the language skills needed to work effectively in those parts of the world. I think I meant global there where I've got load. They could use their databases beautifully to match what skills were needed for their expatriate assignments based upon the databases. So if I wanted an attorney who could speak Spanish to work for our office in Spain, I could go to my database, I could put in the criteria, and I could make them much more extensive. And I could pick out the person who would work most effectively in that context. We can use systems for tracking real-time performance, which is especially useful in statistical process control tracking and in reporting. So if we want to know whether our system is in control, we can do that now real-time, with an individual, not just a team, to determine what the performance is of that individual and whether or not the system is under control. We can use AI systems for providing employees with customized HR information. So instead of having to have, everything recorded, we can hear the individual, what they are looking for, and then move directly to give them that information. Next slide. We can use employee wellness programs. We talk a lot about wellness, but in the past, it's always required the employee to go to a particular HR person to help identify the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, that is needed. Now we can use AI to help us do that on both a physical, a manual, try it again, a physical, a mental, and an emotional basis, so we can address well-being of the employees. We can use software to support hybrid and remote work. We had that one from, I think, our first response. Anywhere, anytime, on any device. So this results in less commuting time. It allows us to have more globally dispersed forces. It allows us to have less congestion, during rush hour. You know what that's like here in Bangkok. Have a lower cost of both rental and building space. I live in downtown Minneapolis. Used to be a great hub for business. Since COVID, companies have discovered that they can do remote and hybrid work. And companies are giving up thousands and thousands and thousands of square feet of space downtown. Companies are virtually leaving the urban area. And people are saying, gee, I can work in, where do you want to work? St. Louis, and work in Minneapolis without ever having to come there. Maybe once or twice a year for an annual meeting. So lots and lots of benefits and some challenges to remote work and hybrid work. Next slide. We can have accessibility software and devices to support the employment of the differently abled individuals, such as I talked about earlier. Technology has dramatically improved my ability to continue to work, even though I am blind. There are so many things that are happening. I just saw a television show in which a person who was paralyzed had a device placed in their brain and devices placed on their hands, arms, and legs that now through AI, he is enabled to move his hands, move his arms, move his legs, and return to the workplace. It's absolutely incredible what technology is going to be able to do for those of us who have been unfortunate enough to have some of our physical needs challenged. We can use TMS, talent management systems. There are many of these out there, unified software programs that allow for hiring, onboarding, performance management, learning, succession planning, all of which can now be done through AI and through other forms of software. Next. So I think it's obvious that what I have been able to do around the digitalization of talent management is simply to give you a high-level overview of the incredible number of ways in which our work is changing because we have digitalization coming along. So, with all of these ways of supporting our work, talent management may be an umbrella on which we can all unite. I've always been uneasy about human resource management and human resource development being separated. They don't need to be. Under talent management, we may be able to come together so that we may all receive the respect we deserve from our management, from our employees, and from ourselves, and get a place at the table to have input into the strategy and decision making of our organizations. We all deserve to come together in decision making and leadership roles at the top of the organization. My watch says we have about 5 minutes left. Do you have questions for me? And we can shut down the slides now.
Okay, yes, Professor. I have a couple of questions, please.
Take one and leave room for others.
Okay. Actually, all the questions I have here are quite important to me, but I'm going to take just one. All right. Or two, if you can.
Questions too.
Okay, two. If you can allow me, I will ask two, please.
No, one.
Okay. So I want to ask about nowadays. It seems like PhD program is becoming unpopular, especially among young students of like us here. All right, and it's coming from the fear of the fact that it looks confusing sometimes, like, what am I going to do with my PhD? All right, and when you look at the lives of people who have succeeded in the field, okay, it doesn't look too attractive, like too satisfying. Like, they put in a lot of work. Obviously, they put in a lot of work, but it seems like something is still missing. Like you don't see them they cannot even support themselves financially in most cases. All right, so I know this question is different from the other maybe the topic of the day, but it's actually quite important to me. I have some questions that are related to the topic of the day, but I want to know if there is a kind of, a sort of motivation or something else we can do to make this attractive, because most times I have a doubt, like, after this, what am I going to do with this? Maybe just teaching, all right? And teaching is not enough, all right? So I don't know if you have any advice to share on this my fear, please.
So I want to respond to the very first comment you made, that PhDs are no longer popular among the young. I guess I would ask for what your evidence is, because the statistical evidence is that more and more people are doing PhDs. So I'm not sure where that evidence is coming from.
Okay, I follow I follow a lot of groups on Twitter and also on LinkedIn, and among my peers and some other PhD students who come together in it's a kind of an international. So we always have this feeling that PhD in the academic sense is too traditional, all right, and it's kind of leaning only towards teaching or becoming a lecturer or professor in the university, whereas we can actually offer a lot in the outside world, all right. Nowadays, a lot of people who are quite advanced in the changing world of technology are not PhD holders, all right. A lot of them, only very few of them. So when you look at this, you start to wonder if you're actually on the right track.
Well, so again, I would I mean, as a PhD student, would you say that your sample is a representative sample of young people seeking PhDs?
Of course, it's not a representative sample, but it's it's quite it's just something most of us talk about these days in the groups that I belong to.
Okay, so I again, as a PhD student, is that a good basis for drawing a conclusion? Or is it more effective to look at the actual numbers who are entering PhD programs?
Oh. Can you hear me?
Which of those two do you think is most effective?
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, are you not hearing me?
Okay.
I heard your answer. So my question
All
is,
right. So please, what?
Wait a minute, Henry. You've got to learn to respect other folks here. Would you rather rely on your own personal network, or would you rely on the statistics that are gathered about entrance into PhD programs?
I will rely on the statistics, and that's why I'm asking the question, all right? I need to be clarified.
So you would rather rely on your own network than to rely on the that are collected?
No, I will rely on the statistics that is available, and that is why I'm asking you, because you have access to these statistics, right? Sure. I want you to, I want you to prove me wrong. Yeah.
Well, if you want the data, you can find it. The statistics are easily available on the web. The U.S. Department of Education, for example, gathers that data every year, and you can find it. But let me go to your second point about the finances. I absolutely and totally agree with you that faculty are way underpaid. What I did in my career, and you notice at age 80, I'm still teaching, right?
Wow.
This has got to have been a very rewarding career, or I wouldn't still be doing it. But throughout my career, I have had a consulting business. That consulting business paid me more than my academic career did. When I was the department chair at the University of Minnesota, I required my faculty to do consulting work, because I argued that if you are not consulting, how do you bring your experiences into the classroom? Even in this presentation tonight, you'll notice how often I shared with you experiences that I had doing consulting work. That's how you stay up to date. That's how you help your students remain current. And then in terms of how you use your PhDs, I have advised 106 PhD students to completion. I stay in touch with most of those students. About half of them went into academia. Half of them went into practice. They made that choice on the basis of a lot of criteria, one of which was money, but one was also of which they were attracted to. Were they attracted to teaching, or were they attracted to research, or were they attracted to practice? And with a PhD, you have the option of doing all three of those. And then when you talk about technology innovation, that's not what we prepare people for in HR subjects. If you want to be an innovator and innovate technology, you should be in a different field. You should be in computer science. You should be in some type of hard science, not in HR, because that's not what we're training you to do. We're training you to be HR professionals, not technology innovators.
Okay. Thank you. That's a good one.
I appreciate your saying that. Thank you. Immediate feedback. Someone else with a question, and then we've got to call it quits. Someone else have a question? If you don't, we're going to let Henry have his second question. Okay, Henry.
Oh,
no
I
one
have
else
a question.
Oh, someone's coming. Go.
The Aaron from California again. Hello, Professor Gary. I have a question. How long you will be staying in Thailand?
This time?
Yes.
So I've been working with NIDA since 1994. I've been working with their PhD program since 2010. The last time I was here was in 2020, just before the shutdown. This is my first time back. So I've been teaching, this is my third course this year that I've taught, and 2 of them were online. This one is in person. So I'm here for 3 weeks.
Okay. So if within the 3 weeks, I try to finish on my project here, like with the governments. It's electrical vehicles for UAE. So because the electrical industry is like big now, like vehicles and solar panels. So I want to meet you in person. Is that possible?
Are you coming to Thailand immediately?
Of course. I plan to have a full time here. Just stuck here.
So the schedule is not set yet for next year. I typically teach 3 courses a year. For sure, one is in August and one is in October. And whether or not I come to Thailand is dependent on how many students are registered in the program. If they can afford to fly me here, I come. If they can't, we do it virtually.
I can visit you in the US, right? Is it possible?
If you want to come to Minnesota.
Professor Gary.
I don't think you want to do that in January, February, or March. Lots of snow.
Okay.
So when Dr. Boon-Anan distributes these slides, on the very first slide is my email. I welcome you to be in touch with me by email.
Thank you so much.
Gary, one question from Nat.
Yes, Professor Gary, thank you very much for your presentation today. It actually opens up my perspective towards that field. Anyway, since I have a topic in my dissertation that relates to AI, the use of AI in education, so I would actually literally need to interview different category of people who actually has perspective towards the real use of AI, which I see that you allow yourself to be overwhelmed with technology. So I would say that you you would be one that can contribute to my work. Would it be possible if I can arrange a personal meeting with you at the university to have a little discussion about my topic?
In person is going to be difficult now because I'm about ready to leave. I teach all weekend. But we can certainly do a Zoom one-on-one. So if you want to email me and set up a Zoom call, I'd be happy to do that. And for any of the students, I am now a full-time faculty here at NIDA. And if you're looking for a committee member, I would be happy to consider that.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Gary.
Okay.
Thank you all for the opportunity to share with you my ideas and just generally give you the invitation to be in touch with me by email. I'm happy to discuss it either that way, or if you want to set up a one-on-one Zoom, I'm happy to do that as well.
Gary, before you leave, let me say thank you. Okay, now for our slides, I already asked my staff P to distribute your slides to our students. So if you take a look on the slides, there will be his email on the slides. And finally, I would like to say thank you very much for you to share your experience, make the students more understanding about the talent management, including how to use the technology to support talent management. And Gary, if I don't see you, I wish you have a good trip back home and please keep in touch.
Always. You also have a Boon-Anan.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Good night, Gary and everyone.
Good night.
ขอบคุณอาจารย์
Good
บุญ
night.
นันท์ครับ ขอบคุณครับ
Thank you, Prof.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you, Professor. Bye.
Bye.
My pleasure. I don't even know how to get out of here now. What do I do?